Welcome, Limbaugh, to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Now, I got to reiterate that point. I thought I really have to reiterate it because to me it is crucial. It is, crucial, key. It's very important to understand this. Greetings, folks. Great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh, revved and ready for yet another 3 hours of broadcast excellence right here behind this, the golden EIB microphone at the distinguished and prestigious Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative, Anti-Media, and Anti-Leftist Studies. The curriculum keeps expanding. No graduates, no degrees. The learning never stops. Telephone number, if you want to join, 800-282-2882. The email at lrushbo@eibnet.us. First things first, I want to go back to me on this program back on November 22nd, 2016. I want to go back about 13 months. Because everybody, and correctly, by the way, everybody's correctly saying that what Mueller is now aiming at is impeachment, not collusion. There was never going to be any collusion charges because there wasn't any collusion. And this is what steams me about all of this. Everything that we're dealing with every day here. It's actually Trump and his people dealing with it, but we are too, because it's an attack on all of us. It's an attempt to deny our votes. The Washington establishment is attempting to overturn a duly constituted legal election because they don't like the outcome. And they are stopping at nothing. Mueller is now subpoenaing Trump bank records from Deutsche Bank because Trump took out a lot of loans to build real estate projects, something like $300 million. And they're going to try to find some irregularity there that has nothing to do with Russia and nothing to do with collusion and nothing to do with the election and nothing to do with Trump's campaign. Literally nothing. So 13 months ago, we had a call yesterday. How did you know about Brian Ross? How did you know? Why were you so confident to tell us that the Brian Ross report that Trump as a candidate had told Flynn to call a rush? How did you know that it was not true? Because I know these people, folks. I know them. I know the left. It's been a lifelong study of mine, and the study has included learning it sufficiently well to be able to explain it to others. Last November, we're not even 3 weeks out from the election, November 22nd, 2016. The drive-by media is going to be devoted to getting Trump out of office, not just bottlenecking his presidency and not just ruining it. Their objective is going to be, I don't care whether it's impeachment, resignation, I don't care what. They're going to do everything they can to destroy his presidency. And if they can't force him out of office, the next thing they're going to do is make sure that he fails at everything he wants to do. They'll do this for a bunch of reasons. Among them, and at the very top of the list, I think, is so they can prove to themselves they can still do it. Now, that claim is about the media. The swamp is not doing it to prove to themselves they can do it. They already know they can. The swamp is doing it just to do it. The swamp is doing it because they just refuse to accept the results of an election. We are so far outside the United States Constitution right now, folks, that it's serious. Mueller, the FBI, none of these people are behaving according to the Constitution. They're all acting outside it. They have to. There's no legal reason to disqualify the election. There's no reason whatsoever to claim the election was fraudulent. The only thing they can claim is that they don't like Trump. Trump is unfit. Trump's not one of them. Trump poses a threat to their lifetime of work and devotion to establishing the United States not as the lone superpower in the world, but nothing more than a single nation among all nations, operating under a global umbrella that does not seek to believe nor promote the concept of American exceptionalism. That's not exclusively a liberal view, although all of them hold it, but Washington establishment types look at it in much the same way. Look at this. If you think that that's nuts, here's a headline from Bloomberg: Europe to weigh in if U.S. tax cuts violate global trade rules. European Union finance ministers will discuss U.S. legislation to slash taxes at a meeting in Brussels today, whether the new plan violates international trade rules. Well, okay, fine and dandy. The problem here is that there are going to be a number of Americans who will agree with that premise. The centerpiece of the tax bill that passed the U.S. Senate over the weekend is a reduction in the corporate tax rate to 20% from 35%. The bill still needs to be reconciled between the House and Senate. The Spanish economy minister, Luis de Guindos, said there are some elements of preoccupation, some discriminatory measures, and the possibility that some parts of the U.S. reform will violate World Trade Organization rules. I will request the Commission to make a further analysis of the potential consequences of the tax plan. And you know who's going to be joining this clown in the World Trade Organization? Is everybody you can think of in the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party might even be so bold as to cite this as a reason why this tax bill should fail. Pelosi's already out there claiming it's Armageddon. And the only reason it's Armageddon is because she doesn't like the corporate tax rate reduction, and she doesn't like the concept of the American people being allowed to keep more of what they earn. You know what else I like about this? Just as predicted, the elimination of the deductibility of state and local taxes from your federal income tax return has residents in Illinois, in New York, and California screaming like stuck pigs on an animal farm. They are beside themselves. It's unfair. It's not right. They've had this big tax deduction because these states are high tax rates, high income tax rates, and they've been able to deduct that from their federal return, meaning U.S. taxpayers have been subsidizing, essentially, taxpayers in California, New York, Illinois, Connecticut, other such high tax places. Now they're screaming like stuck pigs. These are the people who have been running around for years accusing the rest of us of not paying our fair share, while they have been subsidized. And now once they are faced with the concept of paying higher taxes, which what they claim everybody needs to be paying, these are the people that are for every tax increase that comes down the pike, except when it hits them. And now when they are being called on to pay their fair share, guess what happens? They run around and they whine and they moan and complain. World Trade Organization wants to weigh in on the American tax system and claim that it may violate trade regulations, international trade regulations. And, as I say, they can do what they want. The problem is going to be there are going to be several Democrats and a lot of Washington establishment types which will point to this, say, see, this is bad for the world. We're being an irresponsible global partner, they will say. We are being selfish. We cannot do this to the rest of the world. We must remain on par with the rest of the world. We cannot be better. We cannot be exceptional. We cannot lead. No way. Unfair. My prediction is right. It won't be long before this European Union squealing will be cited by some in the media and on the left as reason to oppose the tax bill that's now winding its way through the House and the Senate. Now, back to the establishment here and the impeachment of Donald Trump. Back to November 22nd of last year, it was perfectly clear to me what was on tap. They were going to impeach. They're going to render impotent whatever they could do. But the dream was to get rid of Trump. The dream back then was to get rid of Trump. And I'm telling you, folks, they have got all of them, not just the media. Everybody that lives and works and breathes, it's in the establishment, the swamp, gets up every day and hopes and dreams that that day is the day, that the incontrovertible evidence is produced that forces Trump out. And they have so immersed themselves in this illusion that it has become their reality, and it guides them. Now, obstruction of justice or lying to FBI investigators, both of those things are process crimes. To me, this is one of the most important points of all of this. Both of those that they're now aiming to get Trump on, Flynn with lying to investigators and hoping Flynn can point them at ways to get Trump, and now Trump supposedly obstructing justice. These are both process crimes, meaning they have nothing to do with the stated purpose of this investigation. They are things that are happening because of the investigation. And if there was no investigation, there wouldn't be any of these process crimes. So the investigation gives us all of these so-called crimes. But what is the investigation? It's a scam. It's a total sham. The investigation is rooted in the false allegation that Trump and his team colluded with Vladimir Putin and the Russians to change the election to cheat Hillary Clinton out of her victory. That is what got all of this started. And that is bogus. There was no collusion after a year of thousands of people trying to find evidence. There isn't any. The only evidence has been made up by the deep state, by the intelligence community. Christopher Steele writing the Trump dossier, for example. All of it is made up. There was no collusion. Therefore, this investigation, which is causing paralysis of a presidency, or it's attempting to, which is ensnaring people in the commission of crimes, is entirely unjustified. This special counsel was impaneled in violation of Justice Department regulations. Those regulations require there to be a crime to have been known to have committed, and the special counsel is then charged with investigating that crime. When Mueller was impaneled and charged, he was not told of a crime because there isn't one. He was effectively told to go find one, which is what he's doing. And the only crimes he can find are the crimes that have occurred as a result of his bogus investigation. None of this that's happening, Flynn lying to the FBI, Trump supposedly obstructing justice, none of this would have happened had there not been a fake, bogus, totally corrupt investigation of something that didn't happen. And furthermore, they know that it didn't happen. They know there was no collusion with Russia. They know that the collusion with Russia occurred with Hillary and her campaign and their law firm purchasing and commissioning, if you will, the Trump dossier. The collusion occurs between Hillary Clinton and Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz to rig the Democrat primary against Bernie Sanders. The Russians tried to hack both party computer networks, succeeding in hacking the Democrats. The Democrats refused to let the FBI investigate, and now we know why. It didn't matter. The FBI wasn't there to find any dirt on the Democrats. The FBI is there to find dirt on Trump. The FBI is there to protect Hillary. The FBI is there to protect the Obama legacy, the Obama administration. The FBI is there for one reason, to get rid of Trump, not the agents. I'm talking about the people running the place. I'm talking about management, about Comey, McCabe, and some of these other people we're now learning about. But folks, I'm hell-bent on making this point. The last 12 months of this investigation have all been the result of a bogus scam, and that is supposed collusion between Trump and Russia. There isn't any evidence. Nobody's ever had any. There was no reason to impanel a special counsel to look for any, because no crime has been found even today, despite thousands of people in the deep state trying to make it look like a crime or collusion did happen. Therefore, all of these process crimes crimes that have supposedly occurred, supposed crimes that have supposedly occurred during the course of the investigation, would not even have happened. We have an illegitimate event, the investigation, an illegitimate setup, the investigation, which has then caused Comey to be fired. It has caused the tarmac meeting between Clinton and what's her face out there, Loretta Lynch. All of this that has happened has been to secure the election of Hillary Clinton. And when that failed, despite, you look at this as a seesaw and look at how out of balance it was. Look at the disadvantages Donald Trump overcame, the disadvantages Donald Trump's voters overcame, the full-fledged power and the projection of that power by the Washington establishment still could not get Hillary Clinton elected. And that will not stand. The establishment launched everything it had and it failed. And hell's bells, they're saying, we're going to get it back no matter what. So we have a phony investigation, which now leads to all of these process crimes would not have occurred at all if there hadn't been this bogus investigation. I don't know how else to say it. I wish there were a more powerful way to say it. Perhaps there is. But, I ad-lib everything. I don't plan all of this and script it out before the program begins. Perhaps on this I should have. But I think it's pretty clear. We're living in the twilight zone. Obstruction of justice. Obstructing the investigation of something that didn't happen and that the investigators know didn't happen. And so now they're looking for other crimes that are not even related to what this original investigation was about. And notice how everybody's fallen in and plays along. It's like establishing the premise. The premise Trump cheated. Trump stole the election, worked with the Russians. Okay, we accept the premise, and now everybody behaves accordingly. This investigation's been a lie. This investigation's been a fraudulent, phony, baloney, plastic, banana, good time, rock and roller thing from the first day it began. So I had some emails. Rush, where was the Christmas music in the bumpers yesterday? Folks, we had a backup broadcast engineer who is an atheist, and I didn't want a lawsuit. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to wait for Mike Mamone, the broadcast engineer, to be back. He knows where they all are. By the way, I'm minding my own business last night. I'm lighting the pine and eucalyptus candles. We're decorating the White House has got nothing on us, Christmas decorations-wise. We've got two gigantic trees. It's just awesome in there. So I'm lighting these pine and eucalyptus candles from Joe Malone, my favorite scent. And it goes perfect this time of year. And I get a bunch of emails. Are you watching the Steelers Bengals? Of course I wasn't. So I said, no, you've got to turn this on. You have got to turn. So I said, what is going on? And they said, just turn it on. So I dropped the lighter. I was using to light the pine and eucalyptus candles, and I went in there, and I turned on the game, and it was in the second quarter. And, man, the sports world is in a tizzy over this game last night because it was football the way it used to be played before they found out about CTE and all of that. And the sports writers are just beside themselves. So violent. It can't stand. We've got to stop it. We've got to do something about it. Comments coming up later. And welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Do you remember Scooter Libby? Remember Patrick Fitzgerald? Patrick Fitzgerald, the special counsel who was charged with finding out who had leaked the name Valerie Plame. She was a CIA agent. Not going to get into what kind of agent, whether she was genuinely outed or not. It's not the point. Pat Fitzgerald, special counsel out of Chicago, was charged with discovering who it was that outed her and thereby violated security and put her life at risk along with the CIA. The problem is everybody knew who had leaked her name. His name was Richard Armitage. He worked at the State Department. He was a close confidant of Colin Powell. Richard Armitage leaked her name to the columnist, the late and great columnist Robert Novak, who wrote about Valerie Plame being a CIA agent, but he did not out who leaked her name to him, but it came to be known that it was Armitage. It didn't matter. Pat Fitzgerald proceeded to scorch the earth with multiple interviews of Karl Rove, attempting to entrap him in a process crime. Rove was called in to answer questions. I can't tell you. You couldn't count them on one hand. Scooter Libby, who was in the office of Vice President Cheney, was called in numerous times. And Scooter tripped up. He ended up telling two versions of a story in his multiple interviews. And here we go. Process crime, lying to investigators, lying to the special counsel, lying to the FBI, and Scooter Libby was sent to jail. Even though everybody knew that it was Richard Armitage who had leaked Valerie Plame's name. And despite everybody knowing that it was Richard Armitage, they still went after Scooter because the objective then was to get George W. Bush. They tried to frog march Karl Rove out of the White House in handcuffs and leg irons, and then he went to Scooter Libby. It was the most amazing thing, and people, friends of Scooter's, he had never done a thing. He'd never broken a law. He'd never taken a rubber band and killed an ant with it as a kid. He'd never had magnifying glasses and fried ants as a kid. We all do. He didn't even do that. And they get this poor guy on something that had nothing to do with outing Valerie Plame. He might have spread the name around after it was already known, but he was not the leaker. So Libby got prosecuted for a process crime for lying to the FBI. This was another one of these investigations. It really wasn't necessary because we already knew who the leaker was. It was Armitage over at the State Department, but nobody disliked him. Ranking member of the establishment. Well, that takes us now to Michael Flynn. The thing about Flynn's supposed lies are that he was not lying to cover up a crime because nothing he talked about with Kislyak was illegal. And how do we know this? Because he's not been charged with committing any illegal act. He's been charged with lying to the prosecutors again. He's been charged by telling conflicting stories. Flynn was not lying to cover up a crime. Nothing he talked about with the Russian ambassador was illegal. Flynn, he had to know that his conversations were being taped and transcribed because he would know, as the former head of the DIA, that the Russian ambassador would be subject to ongoing telephone surveillance. His wires were tapped. That's pro forma, and everybody knew it, and it was perfectly fine. It's accepted policy. You wiretap foreign agents when they're in your country. You get a FISA warrant, you do it. And that's how Flynn got entrapped. He's talking to Kislyak, who was the subject of the surveillance. So Flynn didn't even, and they have a transcript of the call, and the Washington Post in January of this year did a story saying that they didn't discuss sanctions, they didn't discuss anything, they did nothing illegal. So in any case, the bottom line is that Michael Flynn had no criminal intentions when he was talking to the Russian ambassador, and yet he was prosecuted by the same people who did not prosecute Hillary Clinton because she had no criminal intentions. Hillary literally did break the law. Hillary literally did skirt all kinds of regulations and laws with her private email server. She was passing classified data back and forth through an unsecured server in her basement. And Comey said, we couldn't find any intent. And no reasonable person would bring a charge. No reasonable prosecutor, he said, would bring a charge. Flynn did not break the law, didn't intend to break the law. But the same people who gave Hillary a pass because she had no intent, nail Michael Flynn. And we now know that this clown, this stroke guy, conducted the interviews with Hillary Clinton, did not record them, did not put her under oath, and furthermore allowed personal assistant Cheryl Mills to actually be called a lawyer for the purposes of granting attorney-client privilege when Cheryl Mills should have also been under investigation. Cheryl Mills and Huma Danger both lied about when they first learned of Hillary's servers. There's documentary evidence from their emails that they lied, and they were not prosecuted. Patrick Fitzgerald ordered Richard Armitage to be silent, to not say a word about anything he had done from the start, because he wanted to use the witch hunt to bring down Cheney and Rove. They were all aiming for Bush, and it's the same thing here. So we have precedents, we have experience with this, a bogus special prosecutor investigation to find the leak of a CIA agent when we already know who the leaker was. Now we have the investigation of process crimes against Trump for obstruction of justice and Michael Flynn and whoever else they can ensnare on the basis of an investigation that is hoax, bogus, and fake because none of it ever happened. There was no collusion between Trump and the Russians. And I think everybody knew that from the get-go. And I think it served as the purpose, and it was intended to sway public opinion. And it was intended to allow the public to accept the idea that there needed to be an investigation. And once that began, then anything they find, why, all we have to do is act shocked and disappointed and surprised. Can you believe poor Flynn? Can you believe Flynn? And this was a long overdue attempt to justify what in truth is an inside the Beltway Washington establishment effort at a silent coup to overthrow a duly constituted, elected president, Donald Trump. That's what's been going on for the last year. That's all it is. I don't mean that to say it's a minimal thing, but that's all it is. It's not an investigation. The Russians did not affect the outcome of our election. This is also an insult to the people that did vote. It's a sideways attempt to say that the people who elected Donald Trump were idiotic and stupid and didn't know what they were doing, and that their votes therefore don't count. We're in a dangerous era here, folks, where the powers that be, the upper levels of our government, are acting outside the Constitution, acting outside the rule of law, which is the glue that is supposed to keep us from becoming your average run-of-the-mill tin-horn dictatorship banana republic. And all of these years, we've had honorable people who, amazingly so, accepted and obeyed the Constitution. It's actually kind of amazing in over 230 years that we haven't had somebody come along and try to rip it up. It's amazing that we've had a sense of honor. Now, I'm not saying there haven't been people who've tried. I'm not saying we haven't had presidents who acted outside it, but we haven't had what we have now. Also got emails last night. You got to turn on Hannity. You got to turn on Hannity. You're coming up on Hannity. I said, what? Yeah, you're coming up on... This was after I'd been told to turn on the football game. So it was about 9:10, 9:12 last night. So I turn on Hannity and they're in a commercial. So I wrote back the person that flashed, well, I missed it. It's in a commercial. No, you're coming up. Oh, okay. So the commercial break ends and the Hannity show resumes and there's no me. And finally, Sean promotes that I'm coming up. I said, aha, I need to tune in about 2 minutes before the program ends. That's what they're holding it for. Well, it was about 10 minutes, and they used a clip of me from the program yesterday to set up a guest appearance by Corey Lewandowski and David Bossie, who have a book about the inside Trump campaign. And while I was waiting for whatever they were going to do with me, I actually thought that the clip they would play, I had no idea, but I thought the clip they would play would be the point that I just made, because I made it yesterday, too. that all this process crime stuff, the obstruction of justice and the Flynn lying, the FBI, you realize, folks, I'm really beside myself with this. None of this would have ever happened. None of it's legitimate, if you ask me, because the investigation that's caused all this is illegitimate and has no basis. But it is happening, and these events are taking place as a result of it. But, man, is it an orchestration. Anyway, Mr. Newt was on. And Mr. Newt said, I don't think I fully appreciated until this evening how really important it was for Trump to win the election. If Hillary Clinton had won, none of this would have surfaced. Bingo, no question about that. That's exactly what the swamp was counting on. The swamp, the establishment, was counting on Hillary winning so that none of what we now know about Hillary and the fake Trump dossier and Hillary and the email servers and Bill Clinton, Loretta, none of this we were supposed to know. Because if Hillary had won the election, none of this would have ever been brought up. There would have never been a story about colluding with Russia. Never. Certainly not with Hillary. Our election would not have been tainted. It would have been clean and pure as the wind-driven snow. There would have been not one negative word written about the sanctity of the election. That's just another way of illustrating to you how bogus this is. In fact, this was not played up. The Russia collusion angle was not played up before the election because they all thought Hillary was going to win, and they did not want to taint her victory with any news about how the Russians were trying to affect the outcome. But when Newt says, I don't think I fully appreciated until this evening how really important it was for Trump to win, I think that's a TV statement because I think Newt knows. I think Newt knows exactly what's going on. I think Newt knows as well as any of us what is happening with our government inside the Washington establishment. I don't think he's shocked by any of this. Well, maybe he is. I think certain people probably could be shocked because there's a certain amount of respect that is automatically accorded to ranking members of any leadership. But maybe he is a little shocked by it. I'm not. And I don't mean this as a swipe at Mr. Newt, so don't anybody try to start anything here. But I'm not surprised by any of this. Not shocked. In fact, predicted it, as I have so demonstrated with playing audio sound bites of me from the Grooveyard of forgotten sound bites. Now I must take a brief time out. There's much more on this clown stroke and what he did. And the Wall Street Journal has just a killer editorial today demanding that Mueller resign, that Mueller is tainted maybe more than Trump or anybody else. And it's really standout because the Wall Street Journal up to now has been leading the Never-Trumpers. But for now, an obscene profit break. Sit tight, there's lots ahead. Now, I want to illustrate to you the power of the Washington establishment, the allure, the power of the swamp. The story I just told you about Patrick Fitzgerald and the bogus investigation into who leaked Valerie Plame's name, which sent Dick Cheney's aide, Scooter Libby, to jail, attempted to do the same thing with Karl Rove, while exonerating the real perpetrator, Richard Armitage. Those very people today would still choose whatever the swamp wants and does over what Donald Trump's policies are. It's a powerful club, and membership is highly valued. And even if the swamp targets you, and even if the swamp nails you, you never betray the swamp. So when Trump comes along and you think it's payback time, I'm going to vote, I'm going to support Trump for what these clowns did to me. No. You stay in allegiance to the people that tried to ruin your life and put you in jail. You do not support Donald Trump. That is a powerful club, folks. And here is Steve in Ipswich, Massachusetts. Great to have you. I'm glad you called, sir.
Thanks so much, Rush. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Same to you, sir.
So my blood pressure has just been going through the roof lately, between all the news of this guy getting thrown off. I just don't see an end game to this. And I'm hoping you have some type of an end game to get these guys out of there, Mueller and his crew, to get me back off the ledge.
Now, that's an interesting point. I think about it, too. I don't sit and try to imagine various scenarios, how it would end. I honestly tell you that I have this thing called faith that's probably worthless to all of you, but I have faith that this is going to end up right. But I don't know how, and I don't know what's going to happen before it does. And I'm not deluding myself. I'm not confusing wishful thinking and turning it into what I think is reality. But let's deal with this as the program unfolds. I've got to take a break now, but I'm glad you mentioned that. Appreciate it. We'll continue here in a moment, folks. Latest numbers on the Mueller investigation after 6 months, $7 million. You think if they gave you $7 million and counting, you might be able to find some stuff on whoever it is you hate? If you had the media helping you with another free $7 million thrown in terms of cost of coverage? Yes! Yes, okay. All right, great. No. Software update. I'm exulting over a software update. Nothing. I didn't even know the microphone was on, folks, when I did that. Anyway, it's kind of embarrassing. I didn't know the. Yes, I've been waiting for 2 days, and it finally happened, and it just happened to coincide with the hour beginning. Greetings, welcome back. Great to have you, Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. The phone number, if you want to join us, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. I'm talking to Andy McCarthy after the program today, interviewing for the upcoming issue of the Limbaugh letter. And I'm going to ask him, I don't mean to sound like I don't think about this. Our last caller says, what's the end game, Rush? I mean, you're telling us how illegitimate the investigation is, and it is, but that's not stopping them. They know it's illegitimate. They know they started an investigation over nothing as a means to create crimes elsewhere. Look, the bottom line, they know, folks, they know they don't have Donald Trump committing any crimes about the election and colluding with Russia. Hillary did all of that. They've known from the get-go that Trump didn't commit any crimes. This is all manufactured. From leaks in the deep state, this is a manufactured thing starting from the Obama administration. This comes from John Brennan, the CIA, and James Clapper, the Director of National Service, and Obama acolytes scattered throughout the deep state. This whole premise that Trump's election is illegitimate springs from the political community organizing strategy and techniques of the Obama administration. They knew that there was no crime that Trump committed. They knew that they needed to start an investigation where they could have crimes committed there, which they're now telling us they've succeeded at. They've got Flynn lying to investigators. Now they're going after Trump for obstructing justice by trying to firing Comey. So how does it end? When they know they're doing something bogus and illegitimate, but they've got an objective. In their world, it's totally legitimate because Trump's an outsider, doesn't deserve to be there. Trump has no business being there. This is the world we're talking about. He's unequipped. He's unqualified. He's an idiot. All of these things. Plus, he's a barbarian. We don't want people like this in our club, and we're not going to put up with it. And we don't care about the Constitution. We're going to do whatever we have to get rid of him. How do we stop that? I'm going to ask McCarthy, because McCarthy, there's no bigger rule of law guy than Andy McCarthy. There's no bigger proponent of the rule of law being the recipe. But when you have people that are behaving by design outside the rule of law, they won't admit they're doing that, by the way. And their supporters don't even think of this as being outside. Their supporters think this is the Constitution being upheld, because their supporters, these dumb coughs, really think there was collusion. So how is a special counsel investigation stopped? Particularly if it's illegitimate and if there is no underlying crime. The only crimes are those they can create in the process of conducting the investigation. How does it stop? How do you beat it back? You know what I still rely on? And I know you're going to sneer at this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I still believe in the power of the American people. And I'll tell you why. You may think this is quaint and not realistic, but it's the only thing separating the swamp from succeeding so far. Trump won the election. You look at the forces that were arrayed, and you look at the power projected against Trump all during the campaign and since he was elected. Now, they have put roadblocks up, and they have succeeded in stalling and thwarting elements of the agenda, but Trump gets up every day and tries to march forward on it all, and he still has his voters behind him. The swamp wants to make their takeover of the government look like it's legitimate and constitutional. So they're going through the motions here of trying to find supposed justifiable reasons to impeach Trump. What is to stop them from just marching a couple people up to the White House and effectively pointing a political gun at Trump's head and saying, you either leave, you resign today, or else. And the else we won't know, but whatever threats they want to make. What's to stop them from doing this? And I maintain to you that even though they resent the American public and they don't really consider elections to be legitimate unless the American public votes the way they want them to, there's still an invisible line that, at least as of now, they don't want to cross and proceed into total totalitarianism or full-fledged, very loud and obvious coup. Now, the Wall Street Journal today has an editorial that just lambastes Mueller, and the Wall Street Journal is an inside-the-establishment publication, as is its editorial page. And the Wall Street Journal editorial page has been very much never Trumper from the get-go. I'm not saying that the Wall Street Journal editorial is going to make Mueller resign. I'm saying it's an element of opposition that has now been registered. Up till now, look at how Mueller began. Reputation impeccable. Resume impeccable. Integrity, honesty, character unassailable. That's how he was presented to people that never heard of him and don't know who he is. That whatever this guy says, you can trust it and then some. Whatever this guy does, you can believe it and trust it and then some. Whatever he ends up charging, you can trust that it is lawful and legit. Well, there are some people now beginning to put some chinks in that armor, in that reputation. And one thing guys like Mueller don't want is for their reputations to be sullied. However, there are always mitigating circumstances, and in this case, getting rid of Donald Trump and erasing this election and its outcome may be seen as well worth a couple of hits to the reputation. It's hard to describe for people that don't know these kinds of people, the people that really lead the establishment, but their public image, their reputation for probity and character, decency, integrity, all of the great virtues is of paramount importance to them, especially to people who don't know them. And they don't want any. These are people that do not want and do not accept and will not abide bad press. To them, that's not part of the price. They do not get treated that way. There are not very many of these guys. I mean, this is not the entire establishment. I know, I've had emails. How do you know all of this? And if you don't know it, how do you say it with so much confidence? Folks, I do know it. Once you learn, well, I don't want to go any farther. Just don't doubt me on this. I know this stuff. It's not because I know them, and it's not because I'm in it. In fact, it's precisely because I'm not that I understand what it is. But I do know that much of what's happened is it's unbelievable to them. They cannot believe that this guy won. They can't believe that they were not able to stop him. They can't believe he's still there. They can't believe they haven't taken him out yet. They can't believe he's still smiling. They can't believe that they haven't gotten rid of Tillerson yet. They can't believe any of this. They can't believe he's not in jail. They have been, in terms of their ultimate objectives, they have not succeeded yet. But they don't care about that. They're playing the long game here. I think they can be beaten back. I think they can be exposed. I think there's quite a lot the American people can learn that would really present these people in a bad light. And they already are. Why do you think Trump won? Trump won because people are already fed up with the world of politicians and the way that world operates. That's why Trump won, not taking anything away from him personally, his charisma, his campaign, his issues. The fact that Trump won tells me that these people can be defeated. And if they've been defeated once, which they were in the election, it can happen again. I'm a natural optimist in most things. In certain things, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool pessimist, but I don't tell you what those are. But on balance, I'm an optimist on things like this. Yeah, we will see. I'll see what Andy says. I'm mentioning this now so that Andy can start thinking about it. This kind of question, when you get it, what's the end game? How do we get there? You do need to think about that. Because right now what we're doing is reacting to each and every day's revelations, events, occurrences, supposed factual events. Like we're reacting to the plea deal of Flynn. Now we're reacting. Have you heard what Manafort did? Manafort supposedly violated a plea deal. He's supposedly ordered by the judge not to make any public statements about the case. So he arranged for an op-ed to be ghostwritten, making his case, but not under his name. And the prosecutors found out about it. And now they're ready to put an ankle bracelet on him and keep him in his basement with nothing but bread and water for food twice a day. They're livid. And Manafort has been charged with things that happened in 2016 have literally nothing to do with the so-called crime they're investigating, collusion with the Russians to steal an election. So clearly they want Manafort. They want to put so much pressure on Manafort that he will, if he lied and told them that Trump did this and that, they'll accept it. Here's a tweet from Nancy Pelosi. I want every single California Republican to understand this. Your ideology doesn't come first. Your party doesn't come first. The people come first. If you fail to recognize that, you don't belong here. She's talking about the tax bill. Governor Moonbeam, Jerry Brown, the tax bill is evil in the extreme. Nancy Pelosi, you talk about unhinged and worse. Yeah, I've got this Conyers stuff, but we knew we knew Conyers was toast. Now we got news that Conyers was feeling up a woman's thigh sitting in church. I mean, he's toast. He's resigning. We know Conyers wanted to name his son, but now somebody else got in the mix. And, no, I want the gig. And Conyers is trying to dictate who's going to replacement's going to be, but he says he's retiring today. It's not going to be any different after Conyers goes. Just, the seat's going to be held by the same type of thinking. You may not have a guy putting his hand up the skirts of women in church. I have to wait and see on that. But other than that, there ain't going to be a whole lot of difference. Whoever takes Conyers, it's another Democrat bites the sexual harassment dust. And there's a couple more here that we have to tell you about that you haven't heard. The Democrats are dropping like flies on this stuff. Let's see. Yeah, I got to get a struck stroke, too. I've got to update you on that. Couple of headlines here on the Roy Moore election. Try this in the Associated Press. Just the headline here. Trump heartily endorses Moore as GOP comes to grips with him. Trump heartily endorses Moore as GOP comes to grips with him. Meaning everybody knows the guy's a reprobate. The GOP has finally had to accept it, and they support him anyway. As election nears, GOP braces for more victory. So according to this headline, this is thehill.com. According to the Republicans, are sweating it out. They're bracing for the worst thing that could possibly happen. Moore could win. Did you hear about poor John McCain? I don't know why, because I don't care enough to dig into why. All I know is that McCain, what? He wanted to get to 3 million followers on Twitter or Facebook. I don't know why. Is that a crime? Not knowing why? They're telling me, be careful what you say. I don't know why he wants it. It's not the point. The point is, when he requested it, most of the people following him dropped. They stopped following him. He apparently made a plea, wanted to get to 3 million, I don't know whether Twitter or Facebook followers, and what happened was the followers he did have unfollowed him. Now, have I created a headline here with it? All right. You didn't know about that? You didn't know about this. See, I passed on information. What else we have here? That's it. It's break time, and I got to get to the phones. People have been patiently waiting, so we'll do that. I got to go update my software in the break. Yes. I'm back after this. And McCain sent out a tweet. We're only 74 Twitter followers away from 3 million. Spread the word and help us reach this big milestone. And now they're unfollowing him. But is anybody 3 million followers? 2.98 million followers? How? As far as I'll go. They're worried about me creating headlines in there. Does that not concern? Does that not? Never mind. You get. I know it's legitimate. I know it's legitimate. That's the point. How in the hell? Stop it, Rush. Stop it. I know, but I'm not on Twitter and I'm not soliciting followers. But McCain is a senator. Never mind. You know what? Just never mind. There's no way in this highly charged atmosphere. Hi, babe. What's happening in there? Don't worry. Don't worry, not going to jail. Today, Matthew in Plainview, Long Island. Great to have you on the program. How you doing?
Hi, Rush. How you doing?
Just fine, sir.
I just wanted to ask you one simple question. Do you think Robert Mueller is now the most powerful man in America?
I think he thinks so.
Well, from my point of view, he's got an investigation where he's allowed to pick and choose who he prosecutes. He has the ability to investigate anyone he sees fit, and it's an unconstitutional. There's no parameters or restrictions.
Well, no, I get your circumstance. Traditionally, it's the president who is considered the most powerful man in the free world, and maybe the whole world. But Now you're talking about a guy who thinks, and everybody else, a lot of other people think, that he holds Trump's presidency in the palm of his hand, which may mean this guy's got more power than Trump. However, Trump can fire this guy. Trump can pardon Flynn, and he can fire this guy, and he can fire anybody he wants. He can do it. Now, there would be political consequences, maybe, but he can still do it. So when it comes down to real raw power, Trump still has it. But if he's made the decision not to fire Mueller for whatever reason, and Mueller may think he holds Trump's presidency in the orifice of his choice. Hello, testing 1, 2. Did our caller drop off?
Hello?
Yes, you're there. What's your reaction to what I just said? That's why you're here.
I agree with you, but he's one objective, which is set by the Democrats, the deep state, the swamp, is to, at a bare minimum, get Trump impeached, or if the real objective, they want to see him carried out in cuffs.
Oh, I think if they could do that, if they could send him to jail, put him in the dock, yeah, none of that would surprise me. And we are back, residing where we always reside, on the cutting edge of societal evolution. It's the Limbaugh Institute, where we meet and surpass all audience expectations every day. So I checked the email during the break. Rush, I don't get what is Pelosi talking about here? That tweet that you read, every single Republican understand this, your ideology doesn't come first, your party doesn't. What she's upset about, folks, is the tax reform proposal that eliminates the deductibility of state and local taxes. I've mentioned this 2 or 3 times, but to these people, to the Democrats in California and New York, Illinois, Connecticut, wherever you have exorbitantly high state personal income tax rates, the Republican tax reform proposal that eliminates the deductibility has these Democrats unhinged. It is the reason why. It is the one thing in the tax bill that's going to cause people of means to flee these states. I played golf Saturday with a guy who's got 2 homes in New York, and he's a New York lifer, and his business is in New York, and he heard about this, and he actually said to me, I'm thinking of moving. I said, please don't come here. He said, why? I said, because all you're going to do is bring your liberalism here and pollute where we already live. I was half joking. But I mean, people who pay exorbitant state taxes but are allowed to deduct those taxes from their federal taxes, it has allowed these states, California, New York, Illinois, Connecticut, to really overcharge people. On the highest marginal rates, they've been able to soak people at 9, 10% or more. But they've been able to deduct those taxes from their federal returns, which means that they're not really paying all that money to the state. They are, but it's coming back to them in the form of adjustments on the federal return. When they can no longer deduct these taxes that they pay, it's going to result in a severe amount of money, a severe loss. Some of these people, it's going to mean a $2 million a year additional tax bill. Others, $500,000. But I'm talking about the people at the top of the income scale. Without the deductibility of state and local taxes, they're going to be paying taxes they haven't paid before while everybody else is getting a tax cut. That's why Pelosi and Jerry Brown, these people are unhinged over this, because it's also going to serve to expose how exorbitantly high the taxes in California are. You know, I've mentioned I have a lot of friends in California. I go out there frequently, and when I do, I try to play golf. And every time they say to me, "Why don't you come here? You got so many friends here. You love coming out here every time. You're letting the tax code stand in your way of enjoying life." And I say, you know what? You may have a point, but I am. I do not want to happen in California what happened to me in New York. I do not want exorbitant taxes. And the minute I move out here, I'm forever a California resident. Even if I move, they're going to be chasing me for the rest of my life. But beyond that, it's a matter of principle. I said, how do you guys put up with it? How do you guys pay? You guys are paying almost 60%. I ask them, how in the world does that not bother you? Well, the answer is they're not paying 60% because they get to deduct whatever their state taxes are off their federal return. Now they're not going to be able to. And you know what's going to happen? There are going to be people that leave. This is significant at the upper tier of earners here. There are some people, look, I'm not making the number up. It doesn't apply to a lot of people, but there are some people that are going to be paying $2 million more in state income taxes because of this. Others are going to be 50,000, 100,000 more, 500. It doesn't matter. It's enough that many of them are going to be so unaccustomed to paying taxes this high that some of them are going to leave. And this is what some of these governors and state officials know. And where are they going to go? They're going to go to states that have no income tax. And what states are those? Texas, Kentucky, Florida, of course. I don't know what other states have no. And it could end up Virginia-izing everything. Virginia used to be, not that long ago, a reliable Republican state. But now, look, when Washington became such an attractive place to move to and work, and all these people that work for and around the federal government there, and they're all leftists, and look what they've done to the state of Virginia. And the same thing's happening in North Carolina, as a bunch of people for the Northeast flee whatever they're fleeing. Now they're going to be fleeing higher taxes for real, and they locate in warmer weather places that have no state income tax. They love that, but then they bring their liberalism with them. So there are possible demographic shifts and all this, but the Democrats that run the states losing this tax, they're not worried about any of that. The only thing that concerns them here is the loss of revenue that they're going to get in their states. The deductibility of state and local taxes has allowed these high-tax states to get away with that because people at the high end have been able to deduct a decent enough percentage of it so that the impact has not been as severe as it's going to be now. Back to the phones. Beaverton, Oregon. Steve, glad you waited. Welcome to our program, sir. Hi.
How you doing, Rush?
Fine and dandy, sir. Thank you.
First-time caller, many-time dialer, and this is the best Christmas gift ever. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This isn't the reason I called, but I'm from Oregon, and we have a very high state tax, and I'm not exactly happy about that either. And if you want to talk about that after my question, we can do that. But the main question I have for you is, you keep talking, during your monologue, you were talking about lying to the FBI. And I'm not a lawyer, and I don't play one on the radio, but I don't understand how lying to the FBI is a crime. People lie all the time.
Well, because it's been entered in the statute as a crime. It's an actual United States Code violation to lie to federal prosecutors, federal investigators. That would be the FBI.
But are they under oath at the time?
Doesn't matter.
But,
it really doesn't matter. Talk to Mark. Here's the thing. If you want the crazy, Flynn did not have to talk to. You don't have to talk to them.
You don't.
No.
You don't at all. And the other thing is, there was a Supreme Court ruling that stated that the police can lie to you.
Right. That's true. I see it on TV all the time.
It's got to go both ways.
No.
So
Now, you may think that justice is balanced toward the accused. It isn't. It's made to look like it is. But when the feds are involved, there's no way you can balance. You don't have the money they have. You don't have the people that they have.
Yeah. So a lot of people just give up and they just acquiesce and do what they want to do. Michael
Flynn's friends said that at the top of the list of reasons why he did this, he can't afford. He would go broke continuing the fight. It's tearing his family apart. And then when they zeroed in on his son, and wanted to nail his son for the same crime, Flynn's, okay, that's it. I'm not letting my son take a hit for this stuff. Cop to plea. It's one of the pressure points and tactics that they use. It's in their arsenal, and they use it as often as necessary. And they can always outlast you because they've got more money than even Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. They've got more money than Gates. They got more money than Buffett. They got more money than Jeff Bezos combined. If they want to really spend you into oblivion, they can do it.
So another question is, how do they know that you're lying? If you believe that what you're saying is the truth.
Because if you tell them on Tuesday that you didn't know X, and then 6 months later, you say, yeah, I knew that, you've lied to them.
Well, yeah, but Hillary Clinton's memory all of a sudden in and out like that.
Hillary didn't intend, you see. That's what they told us.
Well, I didn't intend to lie to the FBI either.
And neither did Flynn, but he still did. Screw him.
So how does it...
Because the purpose of this is to exonerate Hillary, to save the Obama legacy, and to nail Trump and get rid of anybody who wants to try to help Trump. No exaggeration, not making it up, not trying to be funny. That's what's going on here. We're outside the Constitution. We've got a bogus investigation driving all this. Collusion with Russia to steal the election. It never happened. There's not a shred of evidence, and yet we're investigating it. In the process, people are lying and obstructing justice. If you're Trump and you didn't do this, and none of your people did this, and you've got a phony dossier written about you that says you did it, and all of these forces are arrayed against you, and one of the guys leading it is the FBI director, and you run the FBI, you fire the guy. You have every right to. You didn't do any of this. And the whole establishment, which you now run, the federal, the executive branch is coming after you. Of course you're going to fire Comey. But now, if you're Trump, what do? Can you imagine how frustrated this is? Imagine yourself being pursued for something you didn't do, that if they convict you of it, it ruins you and your family. What would you do?
Yeah, exactly. But see, people now know this. They know that they're coming after you, and you don't have to talk to the FBI. So, I mean, aren't they learning in the process here that if the FBI comes to me, I just say, I'm not saying a word.
If you don't talk to them, they can always come subpoena you. They can, at some point.
But you still don't have to talk to them.
But then you get a lawyer, and you take a lawyer in there with you. And you don't say a word.
Right.
But see, these guys didn't do anything. In their minds, they're cooperating and helping. This is, I don't know, if they didn't know that they were being pursued, that's a whole other matter. But I think Flynn is a patriot. It's a former military guy. Defense Intelligence Agency for Obama. He's on the Trump transition team. They're working with the Russians, getting ready for the new administration. The FBI comes calling. It's, I think, his intention to try to be helpful. He lies, whether he lies or not, didn't know he was lying or what have you. He blundered. He did lie to Mike Pence about all this, too. I'm trying to exonerate Flynn here, but the point is, they've got Hillary Clinton on 10 times all this.
Exactly.
For which she has been exonerated in public. There's no question about what's going on here.
Yeah, I know. I'd still like to see Hillary in jail. But
lock her up. Lock her up. Well, I'm not trying to throw gasoline on anything here, but where is, where are the people who would normally be standing up and helping Trump fight all this? Where are they? Devin Nunes is about to blow a gasket over the FBI, Congressional, the Senate, or the House Intelligence Committee has regularly asked for this stroke guy to show up and testify about what the hell he did and what his text messages were to his mistress about how they both hated Trump. And the FBI says, screw you. We don't have to answer to you. You're a low congressman. Who do you think you are? We're not talking to you. We're not sitting up. And they didn't. He's about ready to blow his gasket. The swamp is not cooperating. They're simply telling these chump change congressmen to go suck it. They're way, way outside. You know, if Nixon had been doing any of this, it'd be a whole different story. This is it's uncharted territory because normally these procedures are followed and met because the Constitution is the rule of law. It's the glue that holds things together. When you've got the FBI playing a one-way game here and the Congressional Committee, which has oversight over the executive branch and has to look at these irregularities and subpoenas or asks for testimony from FBI agents, and the FBI says, screw you, we're not showing up. We're not telling you anything. Then what do? All it takes is a couple people who decide the Constitution doesn't matter. Well, now, the stated reason that Mueller is going after Deutsche Bank, Trump's Deutsche Bank records, get this. I mean, this is on the surface. What the hell does this have to do with Russian collusion? Well, somebody put a rumor out some time ago that Trump's financial dealings with Deutsche Bank had connections to Russia. And those connections to Russia via Deutsche Bank might show that Trump colluded with Putin to steal the election from Hillary. And so Mueller is going to go subpoena and did subpoena, and the Deutsche Bank people are cooperating because they're scared to death, too. They don't need this. And the Deutsche Bank is one of the prime lenders for the Trump organization when they need money for real estate development. And so there's a rumor that there's financial dealings there, Deutsche Bank, Trump, and Russia. I mean, this whole... sure they can try to stop it. But the point is that Mueller is going there. And this is Trump family finances that precede any Trump intention to seek the presidency. It's just another bit of evidence that this is an impeachment investigation. It's not a collusion investigation. It is not a counterintelligence investigation, and it's not even a criminal investigation. This is an investigation where they hope to produce not enough evidence to they hope to persuade the American people, because impeachment is a political event. And what they're aiming for, folks, I'll tell you what the game plan here, they are counting on the Democrats winning the House in 2018. So this is going to go on all through next year. This is going to be one of the many things the media and the left are going to use to try to impact campaigns next year so that Democrats retake the House. And then when Democrats retake the House, you watch how fast Mueller puts his investigation to bed and turns it over to the Democrats, who will then be running the House, theoretically, to begin preparation of articles of impeachment. That's what all this is predicated on. Democrats control it. The Republicans control the House, and all this is kind of moot. Okay, look, I just hit on the answer. The caller said, what's the end game? How do we stop this? He was asking, how do we stop the Mueller investigation? You're not going to stop it. But the Mueller investigation requires, it is predicated on the Democrats winning control of the House and then running the articles of impeachment. That's what this really is. If you want to stop Mueller, don't let the Democrats win the House. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. You try it. Rush Limbaugh and the EIB Network, and we're happy to have you here for the fastest 3 hours in media. We only have one more to go. And a month ago, if you would have told me that I'd have been talking about the NFL, something unrelated to sideline protests and so forth, I would have told you, nope, you're wrong. But we're going to talk about Steelers-Bengals last night because it has to do with the current state of football, the National Football League, and where it's heading and what's happening to it as a business. So just to retrace my steps here, and this is not going to take long, but grab audio soundbite number 18 and have it standing by. Last night was a rivalry game, Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I need to set this up. The Steelers and Bengals really have not been that big a rivalry. It's been the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. But I think it was a couple years ago. The years run together. The Steelers had a game against the Bengals. It was a playoff game. It was at Cincinnati. And I forget the actual score, but the Steelers were on their way to losing. There were just a few short minutes left in regulation. And the Steelers were down 2 scores. And within about a minute, the Bengals incurred enough penalty yardage for the Steelers to be moved within field goal range to win a game. And the Bengals' penalties were committed by Adam Pac-Man Jones and Vontaze Burfict, and then some penalties for running up against officials and stuff that happened during dead ball periods. I mean, it was just, it was the most mind-boggling way to lose a football game. I could not believe it. Shortly after that, we had an interview here with Benjamin Watson, who's now tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. He's played for New England and so forth, and he's a great guy. He's written a book about Christian morals and how it's gotten him through life. And I asked him about the game. I said, I can't imagine being part of the Cincinnati organization losing a game like that just to settle thug-type scores. And he agreed, but said it's just, those are things that are happening. Well, where's the coaching staff? Why can't coaches discipline these guys into not coming stupid? I mean, fouls running into the officials, objecting when the officials call a penalty, incurring another penalty, unsportsmanlike here. Well, anyway, since that game, there has been a heated rivalry between these two organizations. Even before that game, Pac-Man Jones, number 24, cornerback for the Bengals, who once walked into a strip club in Las Vegas waving $100 bills around, gunfire ensued, and the bouncer ended up paralyzed. Pac-Man Jones was then sent packing for wherever he was, and Jerry Jones picked him up at Cowboys for a while. He ended up in Cincinnati with his partner and his good buddy, Vontaze Burfict, linebacker number 55. In that previous game, Antonio Brown, the wide receiver for the Steelers, was running a pass route. The ball was high. It was uncatchable. Vontaze Burfict lowered a shoulder into Antonio Brown's helmet, and he was out on the field and injured with a concussion and unable to play the next week in a playoff game against Denver. So there's been bad blood between these two teams for a while. Last night's game is being described as brutal, unnecessary, scary, exactly what the NFL doesn't need right now. The first thing that happened that has people upset, Ryan Shazier, number 50, middle linebacker for the Steelers, was attempting a tackle. Jammed his head into the side of one of the Cincinnati players. You could see it in slow-mo. The neck literally compressed. He hit the deck, immediately grabbed for the center of his back, lower center, and rolled over and was not moving anything below his waist. immediately you could tell that there was some degree, it looked like that there was some degree of paralysis. The place got stone quiet. The Steelers staff went out there, immediately got the stretcher, the body board, put him on it, put him on a cart, rolled him out of there. And the Steelers did not offer any updates on his condition throughout the game. They didn't offer any updates till about 1:38 this morning. So everybody was left to speculate and wonder. Shazier was unable to move his left arm very much. He looked in total, complete distress. There was nothing illegal about the hit. He just lowered his head too much when trying to make a tackle. But there was nothing dirty about it. It was just rough. It was just an example of what can happen on the field. And that's the first thing that got people upset. The game then kind of got stale. You could tell that event slowed things down and tamped down some of the momentum and energy. And the Steelers looked like they were sleepwalking. Ended up 17-0 down at halftime. In the second half, there was a play. Roethlisberger rolled left and completed almost a check down pass to number 26, Le'Veon Bell. And out of nowhere, the youngest player in the league, number 19, Juju Smith-Schuster for the Steelers, just comes in and levels Vontaze Burfict. It was the kind of hit that Hines Ward would stand up and applaud. It was a blindside hit, but it caught Burfict in the helmet, in the jaw and the helmet. And Burfict was immediately concussed and out of it. Juju Smith-Schuster, number 19, rookie UCLA, stood over Vontaze Burfict and was accused in a penalty flag thrown for taunting, celebrating the injury of the opponent. The sports writer community had a cow. This is horrible. It was a hit to the head, and now he's standing over it. He thought it's horrible. It's horrible. It shouldn't have. It's horrible. It's bad. Number 84, wide receiver Antonio Brown, who had been leveled by the same kind of hit by Vontaze Burfict a few years ago, said, "It's karma." Burfict was taken off the field on a stretcher, on a cart, with a concussion. But the story is Burfict got off the stretcher once they got to the tunnel and tried to get back out on the field to settle a score, but they restrained him and he couldn't, and he was ruled out for the game. Later, Antonio Brown, number 84, wide receiver for the Steelers, touchdown catch in the end zone and is leveled by another shot to the head by a Cincinnati defender, and it looked just as vicious as anything Shazier had experienced, just as vicious as what number 19, Juju Smith-Schuster, had dished out to number 55, Vontaze Burfict. Brown laid in the end zone with his arms raised, did not drop the ball, held onto the ball. It was a touchdown catch, and it proved to be the game-tying catch. And the flags threw, and it was in unsportsmanlike, intentional, unnecessary roughness, whatever it was. Another penalty. And so those three events, and there were some other things that happened that were chippy during the game. There's some hits that weren't called. But there were three direct shots to the head by the other player's helmet-to-helmet hits, which are illegal now outside the line of scrimmage in the NFL. And they asked Ben Roethlisberger, number 7, quarterback for the Steelers after the game, hey, it's just AFC North football. ESPN sports writers, I guess they have some left after all the layoffs. It's just not right to say it's AFC North football. This must not continue. This must stop. This is horrible. There's no need for this. This is going backwards. This is not what the league did. And the general consensus seems to be that this game last night was horrible. It was absolutely ugly. It was unacceptable. It was not what the league needs. It should be the exact opposite of what the league allows. That game last night, think of me what you will, that game last night is how football used to be played. There were hits like that in pretty much every game. Now, there were not injuries like that, but it was frequent. I mean, it was a different game. They've now legislated by rule helmet-to-helmet contact out. They fine players. They suspend them. The league is doing everything it can to stop this kind of stuff. And it's now said that the players are going to have to be the ultimate policemen. The players are going to have to realize that they have to protect each other, that they are a fraternity, and that this kind of thing can't go on. Go ahead and have tough tackles and all that, but stop the helmet-to-helmet stuff. The brain injuries, we know too much about them now. They're too long-lasting. They have really demonstrable adverse effects. But this was a game between two teams that really, really don't like each other and have a building animosity for each other. And the sports writer community, John Gruden, who was doing the color analysis for ESPN last night, said it's the worst thing he's ever seen. This is horrible. This shouldn't have happened. Juju Smith-Schuster, number 19, wide receiver Steelers, should have been thrown out of the game for the hit on Vontaze Burfict. Others said, hey, Burfict just got exactly what he dishes out every Sunday. And they're not far wrong in that. I mean, Burfict's the kind of guy, when he's on your team, you love the guy. You support. When he's not on your team, you want him to sent jail. Tough competitor. But at home, he's supposedly soft-spoken, gentle family man, father of 3 girls. After one of these games, number 24, cornerback for the Bengals, Adam Jones, submitted a video on Facebook where he accuses Steelers of being all gangsters. Ramon Foster, an offensive lineman for the Steelers, said last night was the first time he's ever been scared to play football after seeing what happened to Ryan Shazier. Again, the Shazier hit, there was nothing illegal about it. He just dove straight into the Bengals players trying to tackle right into his side, and you could see in slow motion his neck just compress. And he immediately reached with his right hand behind his back to his middle of his back and rolled over and didn't move other than his arms. So we have just one little soundbite on this. It's from Good Morning America today. Correspondent T.J. Holmes is talking to Robin Roberts and Michael Strahan, who played for the Giants, about the hit that number 19 wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster put on Vontaze Burfict.
We got a scary reminder of just what you guys, really put on the line every single play. It can be a life-changing event every play. That hit on Vontaze Burfict, look at it again, folks. Oh. That is what they're trying to get out of football. And then another hit, and Antonio Brown on a touchdown that he caught in the end zone. You see his head snap back. Ooh. This is the only game last night. This is a showcase game for the NFL, and this is what the country got to see. A great game, but it's overshadowed now by the brutality.
When you do see guys who take shots at other guys, that's so unnecessary. We now know have long-term effects. And this is where guys need to realize this is not about right now. This is about your future. I've been out there and you've seen a guy's leg snap, and you can hear it. And you're out there on the field, and you're looking at the guy you have to play against. You're both looking at each other like, we really have to do this. But then it's business as usual.
And they asked Charles Woodson, who's on the ESPN team, in the postgame, said, Charles, when stuff like this happens, it's happened when you've been playing. How do you go on? And Charles Woodson said, you realize it's your job. We're professionals, and you got to go on. And it's true. I still don't have a firm update on Shazier. The last I heard was that he was going to be let out of the hospital today in Cincinnati and go back to Pittsburgh, and did not need surgery. But this happened. The Steelers were playing in Tennessee against the Titans way back before the Roethlisberger era, and Tommy Maddox, the quarterback, fell straight down on his head. Head hit the ground, he's upside down, and you can see that the neck compressed there, and his legs went immediately limp. and he was paralyzed below his waist for about 12 hours. And the Steelers didn't, but he only missed a week. He was out 1 week and came back and played. So some of the sports were, Shazier could be back after a week. They're thinking that Juju Smith-Schuster, number 19 for the Steelers, is going to be suspended because they suspended Gronkowski from the Patriots for a hit that he made against the Buffalo Bills player after the whistle. This at least happened during play. So, and next week the Steelers have the Ravens, and they hate them even more than the Bengals, and vice versa. Now, you heard this guy say, T.J. Holmes, this is the showcase game. This is not what the league wanted. Folks, I'm not so sure. I think this game last night has more people talking about what happened on a field than an NFL game for the first time this season. For the first time, more people are talking about a game rather than kneeling, sideline protests, social causes, and whatever else. So we shall see. Back in a second. Sports writers are all saying, why would they keep helmet to helmeting each other? Why keep hitting each other in the head once they saw what happened to Shazier? Doesn't work that way. Adrenaline, competition, heated rivalry, trying to separate receivers from the ball, or paying back number 55, Vontaze Burfict, for what he did to Antonio Brown 2 years ago. Anyway, I've had a couple emails about this. I have a ban on any audio from MSNBC. I'm not going to break the ban, but I've had enough people email me. Rush, have you heard that they're saying all over MSNBC today that Mika Brzezinski is saying that they're all going to go to jail for the rest of their lives, Trump and his team? Yes, I saw it. The details of this story, let's see what, as the noose of Robert Mueller's probe into the Trump team's contacts with Russia is tightening. There is no tightening with Trump's team's contacts with Russia because there weren't any. Well, there was no collusion in the election. Members of the administration are starting to understand they're going to jail for the rest of their lives, said Mika Brzezinski. The noose is tightening, and the Trump team knows they're going to jail for the rest of their lives. And I've had people say, Russ, are these people that stupid? Yes, but that's not what's going on here. For these people to go on MSNBC and to say, is almost in a factual, very confident, predicting kind of way, that Trump and his team are going to jail maybe for the rest of their lives. I believe what that means is that somebody in the investigation is telling them this. There are people in this investigation, and they're close to it, or they're ancillary, or they are friends with the investigators. We know that this struck guy was tweeting and emailing, texting with his mistress about how much they universally, jointly hated Trump. But my thinking is that somebody told him this. Oh, yeah, we're going to get him. These people, they're going to go to jail. So Mika Brzezinski and Scarborough run with it. And I don't know whether whoever told him this really thinks it or means it. But when I see now that Mueller is subpoenaing Trump's financial records from Deutsche Bank, it wouldn't stretch believability for somebody in this investigation or close to it to say, yeah, we're going to get them, these people. They have no idea what's coming. We know what they've been doing. We know what Trump did with his money. By the time we get through with them, they're going to go to jail for the rest of their lives. And since that's what Mika Brzezinski and Scarborough want to hear, man, they run with it. Now, it's possible they could have just made it up and put it out there as something they think independently, but I kind of have my doubts about that. Anyway, okay, I'm going to answer the question, what's the end game? I've been doing enough thinking of this. I won't take long. I think two things here. I think it'd be a mistake, and I've always thought this, it'd be a mistake to fire Mueller, not because he can't do it. It would only intensify the swamp's demands for impeachment. There's impeachment is purely political at this stage, and there's a way to play it. I think Trump, as frustrating as it's going to be for us, I think Trump needs to play this out and just keep doing what he's doing and focus on the agenda and get as much of this agenda done, make sure tax cuts get passed, move on with the wall, keep focusing on illegal immigration. Because, folks, what everybody's assuming here is not automatic. The assumption everybody's making is the Democrats are going to win the midterms. And I'm here to tell you the Democrats still have no idea how unpopular they are. They think because they won the Virginia governorship election that they're back. They think it's over. They think they're back. They think the American people hate Trump. They think the American people can't wait to vote for him in 2018. They're not going to win the midterms. The Democrats are not going to win the House 1 year from now. They're not going to do it. And if that doesn't happen, then there's no impeachment. I don't care what happens. The Republicans are not going to do that. I also remember something else. Trump said long ago of Mueller that if this guy starts looking into my business dealings long before any of this came up, this stupid witch hunt in this investigation, then that's where I'm going to draw the line. Now, Mueller heard Trump say that. What if? I was just chatting emails here with McCarthy, who had this thought. I'll ask him about it in the interview coming up. He said, what if Mueller, by announcing this subpoena of the Deutsche Bank Trump financial records, is trying to bait Trump into firing him? Because Trump said that's the line. That's the red line. If this investigation goes that far off the rails, I'm not putting up with it. Well, there it goes. It's going off the rails. It's headed now to Trump's finances. So why would Mueller want Trump to fire him? What would be? Well, there could be any number of reasons for that. Mueller doesn't have a case. This is really, Mueller, I told you earlier, these guys do not like their reputations getting sullied. You may think this is caca, but these people, the coin of the realm is their never-ending respectability and sophistication, integrity, decency, and all that. Now they're Wall Street. I mean, they live and breathe for puff pieces in the Washington Post style section about how great they look in their tuxedos when they go to the charity balls. And here the Wall Street Journal editorial today is just raking Mueller over the coals and suggesting that he's already so conflicted he needs to resign. This, I guarantee, is not what Mueller signed up for. No way. Not at age 73, twilight of what has been a stellar career. So maybe he's trying to bait Trump into firing him because he wants out of it. But more than that, firing Mueller could intensify the heat on Trump as an out-of-control chief executive like Nixon. Analogies to the Saturday Night Massacre would be drawn. And then whoever is our Howard Baker today would go up there and say, President Trump, you don't have any support anymore. You got to go. That would be my guess as to why Mueller would try to bait Trump into firing him. But hopefully Trump's got enough people around him to tell him not to do that. We shall see. One other thing that we're learning here about struck, because we had a question earlier about Flynn and why did he talk to these guys? Well, we now know why. A very quality, good journalist named Sarah Carter has posted a piece. I think it ran at Hannity's website. Peter Strzok, however you pronounce it, he was working under Comey. Comey knew what this guy's anti-Trump biases were. So that's another justification for Trump to fire Comey. Comey's another one of these guys had an impeccable reputation. You talk to anybody that knew Jim Comey, going all the way back to when he was deputy for Ashcroft, even before this. Jim Comey was a guy, he had engineered this impeccable reputation. Now look at it. And everybody is now starting to question whether he truly was so deeply partisan that he was in the tank for Hillary and taking the FBI in that direction. But the answer to why did Flynn talk to the FBI, according to Sarah Carter, Flynn didn't know that he was being interviewed. Now, here are the details. Sarah Carter writing yesterday, according to another source with direct knowledge of the January 24th FBI interview of Flynn, Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director under Comey, contacted Flynn by phone at the White House. Flynn was at the White House on January 24th. He gets a call from McCabe, number 2 at the FBI. White House officials had spent the earlier part of the week with the FBI overseeing training and security measures associated with their new roles as part of the transition. So it was no surprise to Flynn that McCabe had called. And McCabe told Flynn some agents are heading over to the White House. Flynn thought it was part of the routine work the FBI had been doing at the White House that week. And Flynn told McCabe, okay, well, we'll clear them at the gate. It wasn't until the FBI agents were already in Flynn's office that he realized that he was being formally interviewed. He did not have an attorney with him. That's Sarah Carter's story on how the Flynn, in other words, there was deception. The number 2 guy at the FBI calls Flynn. The FBI has been at the White House all week working on new stratagems and new policies relating to security and so forth with the new administration. McCabe says, hey, the FBI's coming back in. And Flynn says, fine, we'll clear him at the desk, front gate. And they come into his office, and the official interview begins. He was not told that it was an official interview. He was not told anything. So he had no lawyer there. He didn't even suspect. So the way Sarah Carter writes this makes it look like it was an act of deception. And, of course, if the number 2 FBI calls you and you already got exercises going on with the FBI all week, and the number 2 FBI calls you and you're Flynn, and he says, yeah, the FBI's coming back. Can you see them? They're coming in. You think it's a continuation of the work you've been doing on all week. Quick timeout, my folks. We'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we got Peter Strzok, an anti-never-Trumper, with a mistress who's also an FBI warrior who is also anti-Trump, and he's tweeting and texting with her, and they're back and forth with their anti-Trump messages. Get this from Fox News. Fired aide to Robert Mueller was a key player in the Clinton email probe. A top prosecutor who is now a deputy for Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, praised then-acting Attorney General Sally Yates after she was fired in January by Trump for refusing to defend his controversial travel ban, which the Supreme Court just declared fully constitutional. Sally Yates was an Obama administration holdover. She was there because Trump didn't move her out. She was a pro-Obama anti-Trumper. She refused to implement and support Trump's travel ban. An email obtained by Judicial Watch through a federal lawsuit shows that on the night of January 30th, Andrew Weissman, one of the key aides to Robert Mueller, wrote to Sally Yates under the subject line, "I am so proud. His message and in awe. Thank you so much. All my deepest respects." So yet another Mueller investigator has been revealed to have sending emails in the middle of an investigation back and forth with Obama holdover, praising her for sabotaging Trump's travel ban. The disclosure follows confirmation that another Mueller investigator, FBI official Peter Strzok, was fired over the summer after allegedly sending anti-Trump texts to an FBI warrior with whom he was romantically involved. This guy's name is Weissman, Name is Andrew Weissman. And we've known, I mean, he's Mueller's top guy, and he despises Trump. Weissman is the guy who designed the pre-dawn SWAT team raid of Manafort's house. This investigation is tainted. It is populated with biased, unfair, anti-Trumper Clintonites and Obamaites. Now, this is at Fox News. Don't expect ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN to be reporting this. You will not hear about it, unless it is to praise these people. Wouldn't doubt that at all. Number 19, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster, has been suspended for 1 game. So has George Iloka. He put the helmet-to-helmet hit on number 84, Antonio Brown, in the game-tying touchdown in the end zone. It was an attempt to separate Brown from the ball. Ball was held onto by Brown. He gets a game suspension, and let's see, don't know about fines yet, but those are the suspensions. Probably just the tip of the iceberg for that game. Anyway, folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day and evening, and we will be right back here same time tomorrow, 21 hours from now, as revved and ready as we were today.